name's Al. I am the founder and technical director at Numeral. I've been working in the industry for about 20 years. I started as a graphic designer, so I studied graphic design. As soon as I started working out of uni, I started on website design and then got into development just through necessity of being excited about turning the designs that I was specifying into actual websites. And through the course of that, then just getting deeper and deeper into the development side of things. I've been working in all sorts of different sectors, government, arts sector, SaaS products for large companies, small companies, big teams, small teams. And I've been working in quite a few different roles over the years. So as a UX designer and researcher, as an interface designer, as a front-end engineer, full-stack engineer, and also on the delivery side. And over the last 20 years, I've had about 5 or 6 different businesses, some of them just freelance and others have been partnerships. I had a startup in Auckland about 15 years ago. And prior to Numeral, I had an agency based in the top of the south of New Zealand with a friend of mine, Charles Anderson, who's a very talented journalist. We focused on interactive storytelling, which is using the best of what's available on the internet or in the browser to tell really great stories, and in most cases to underserved audiences. And that was really great for honing my own skills. We did basically every product we did had a lot of research and development. We were always trying to do something new and pushing the boundaries of what is possible, but always in service of the story. So to reiterate what you were saying there, Phil, everything that we were doing had to be in service of the person who was going to be interacting with the piece of, with the experience that we were building. And so it's all very well to say, hey, we can do this flash fancy thing in the browser. Here's some 3D we can do. Here's some cool stuff we can do with the audio API. But A, does the user understand what we're asking them to do? And B, is it actually in service of the larger objective that we're trying to communicate with this experience? So that's something that I always keep close to heart whenever we are designing or scoping out a potential project, is that balance of trying to do something new, but understanding that people don't always understand how to interact with new things. So do we scale back the new stuff so that people can understand it, or do we design it in a way that we can gradually walk people through and we can almost teach them how to use these new capabilities? So that's always an exciting part of the start of a project, is trying to work out what sort of tech can we really push, and how can we make sure that it's actually going to be effective at the end of the day. My day-to-day in Numeral is focusing largely on growing the team. So I've recently just moved to Australia with the intention of setting up Numeral Australia, which is pretty fun. I'm currently based in Byron Bay, and the goal is to build up a team of about 4 or 5 developers over here to augment our team in New Zealand. Is about a similar size. So yeah, we're excited about the possibilities.
Yeah, hey, I'm Phil from Numeral. I'm the engineering director here at Numeral. I've been in software now for over 10 years, web dev technology, specifically the front end, branched out a little bit into back end and infrastructure as you do, but yeah, very much on the front end side of things. Had a pretty varied career, so I've worked in sales, I've worked in banking, I've worked in a few different things. Started an agency back in the UK a wee while ago. Did a few fun Ionic apps, and that's where I kind of cut my teeth with React, and then moved to a bigger agency from that, and worked there for a few years, and then came over to New Zealand I think 6 years ago now, 6.5 years ago, and then since being in New Zealand, I've worked with digital agencies here, done a lot of work on government projects, large scale projects, and led the front end teams within those. I think definitely when it comes to digital kind of products or projects, I'm a big fan of just keeping an eye to that side of scalability, reusability, making everything kind of looking at the developer experience as well as the side of things of what the finished kind of product is for the user, and just asking the right questions and keeping things moving. It's always good to be able to put something in front of an end user in order to be able to kind of test it and get that full feedback on there. Jumped across to work at Numeral early at the end of last year, and just been working with Allan. It's been good. It's been interesting. Again, very much into small startup kind of land, where there's a team of 6 or 7 of us working across a handful of projects, and just a little bit more hands-on, but exciting times to be able to kind of work on interesting tech, interesting kind of outcomes, and also with kind of technology that's used by a large user base as well. You make a bit of a difference. That's pretty much me, I would say. Over to you, Al.
That's awesome. Just a question on that, Phil. What do you think makes a successful website project?
At the end of the day, it's definitely down to the end users, right? If you look at any project or any reason for kind of the existence of a website, it's there for the end users. So as long as they get what they need and what they want from it, I think that's its primary purpose. There's a lot of other things that can kind of play into that. Obviously, you don't want it to cost the world. You don't want it to take too long. You don't want it to break. You want it to be a good experience for the end user as well. So a lot of other factors kind of contributing to that. But at the end of the day, the end user is the most important person, I think, in the kind of grand scheme of things.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Numeral, at the moment, we're an agency. We're a small agency, so we're pretty agile in what we can do. I think, to me, really, Numeral is about reinventing the kind of agency model. I think at the moment, agencies find it hard. We don't just want to be a body shop. We don't just want to give you people, and you get that person, same as a contractor, same as a member of your staff. I think Numeral wants to be seen much more as a technical team, or your technical team. I'd describe it as a complementary agency, so definitely looking to come in and complement what you do already, and be able to either give extra resource, or give that extra skill, slightly more specialising in the front end, to be able to kind of get through any hard, difficult kind of tech that you have. I think in that sense as well, when you have someone from Numeral, you are hiring Numeral as a team rather than just that one person. So where we all specialise in different areas of front end, with that one person, they still have the entire team behind them. So if they get stuck on an area, or they just want some more experience in a certain area, they're able to lean on the rest of Numeral. Areas of expertise are obviously kind of the front end stack. We mainly use Node, and JavaScript and React. We're skilled with accessibility, skilled with performance, security, the different tech that comes together to kind of put front end together, mainly with things like Next.js, and Sanity as well, is our kind of CMS of choice. Just creating digital experiences there, and being able to drop in as your engineering team.
Ultimately, the goal with Numeral is a company that can provide very high quality front end development services to teams who need some extra help on that side of things, because either they don't have the expertise in-house, or they need more people to help get something across the line. There's a number of reasons why you might need that extra help. Maybe someone's gone on an extended period of leave, but you need to keep the current momentum up, or maybe deadlines have been brought forward, or there is just far too much to do, but not enough to hire people full time. There's a bit of a saying in the startup world, which is solve your own problems or scratch your own itch. And from being an agency owner in the past, it is really hard to bring in the right amount of work for the team size that you have. It's very hard to have exactly the same amount of work as you have capacity. So you always do need options to be able to scale up quickly and scale down quickly too. And in my experience, that can be quite challenging if you are relying on the contractor market. That can be sometimes quite hard. There aren't always people that you need with the specific skills that you need. Also, you might work with a contractor that you really enjoy, and then a few months later, they've gone on to something else. So what we're trying to do with Numeral is have a dedicated team who can jump on and help you out whenever you need extra help, and be a bit of a long-term solution as well, so that you can scale up and scale down. But also internally, we have very skilled front-end and full-stack developers, and we are also, because we are specialising in a very narrow slice of the pie, we get the chance to go quite deep into those various areas of expertise and really become an expert in that front-end space. So our area of expertise is front-end development specifically. We don't officially do design, but we do have designers. Some of our developers are designers, so they bring that knowledge with them. So we make very sure that when we are solving front-end engineering problems, that we also are coming at it from a design perspective, and that we're thinking of the whole product and not just solving this one task. We're always thinking, what is the ramifications for the business? What does this mean for the user experience? What does this mean for maintenance and for the developer experience? All of those pieces, if you drop one out, it's going to be a problem further down the line. Quite often you can build software that works here and now, but is it going to work in 3 years' time? So that's a very important part of the way that we approach it, is thinking of the larger picture and going a little bit deeper than just the tasks that are being presented to us, and making sure that the software we build is scalable, that it is maintainable, that we reduce as much technical debt as we can. So that's the approach that we take.
Yeah, I think you're right with that, Al, in terms of our kind of people and our developers, and they're not just developers in that sense. There's a side of pragmatism and taking that kind of bigger picture, being able to work with that and work with the wider team as well, just to make sure everything's spot on. We're not kind of digging ourselves into a ditch later on. You've moved to Australia, Al.
I have, yeah.
How's that going?
It's good, but I've been mainly focused on getting the family settled, so there's not a lot of work updates to say on that regard. But I think I'm just at the cusp now. But we are starting doing quite a lot of work for the design conference, which is Australia's leading design conference. We're building a really beautiful website to promote and sell tickets to the conference, and then there are other features that we're working on. So that's a really exciting project that we're working on over here, and also just my task now is to go out and meet people.
You know, you've moved your family over there, so getting the family set up first, that's a priority, right? Which I think across the board at Numeral for all of our staff, anyone who works with us, and I think just making sure we have that people first approach.
Yeah, that's right. Like the team that we build is very important that everyone is enjoying the work that they're doing and they're being given challenges to keep things interesting without feeling like they're underwater because they've been given too much to do or something that is out of their comfort zone. But I think generally, as developers or as engineers, problem solving is a really big part of what motivates us. And so
100%.
we are lucky in that a lot of the projects that we are invited to help out have a really good element of challenging problem solving. But even just building a modern web app these days has a lot of challenges, even just at a default level, because there's so many different moving parts. Just like you touched on before, Phil, like things, it's got to be accessible to all users. It's got to be fast to load, because we know that as soon as something is slow to load, it affects conversion rates and it affects the efficacy of the website, and generally can introduce frustrations for users, and that's the last thing we want because people will just drop off. There's so many different ways that something can go wrong in a website. So it's a very complicated orchestra of things to get ready into delivery. So yeah, which is great in the sense that there's always something that we can optimize or that we can put effort into improving, and so that keeps things pretty interesting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Being problem solvers, that's the most exciting space, I think, for any developer to be in. I think, yeah, you've definitely got your comfort zone, where if you're in your comfort zone a little bit too much, you can start to stagnate, you can get a little bit bored there. So it's just pushing outside of that comfort zone, making sure you're keeping yourself sharp, and keeping the tool on the tools. And yeah, that's always good. Always good to be learning and moving forward in that space, not pushing too far outside of your comfort zone. Where you're going to find it too challenging, but just really finding that sweet spot just outside your comfort zone where you can really grow, and just keep on learning and making things better.
That's right, and because things are moving so fast in our space, there's new frameworks and new methodologies that are coming out all the time. It can be a little bit daunting to try and keep up with it all. But I think where we are at with the stack, like you mentioned before, we've got React, Next.js, TypeScript, and HTML and CSS, obviously. Things are at quite a good state with that stack, I think. And so really you can build basically any front end with all those technologies. So it's great that the industry is sort of matured to a point where there are a lot of common and accepted frameworks. Just remembering back to 10, 15 years ago where there were lots of different things all vying to be number one, and it sort of segregated people into this camp and that camp. But I feel like as an industry, or maybe this is just an echo chamber thing, but I feel like we're sort of deciding on a main stack, because the fact that we use React is not necessarily because it's something that we have chosen so much as it just appears to be the default for most teams working these days.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that. I think you're completely right where, 10, 15 years ago, the web was very much the Wild West in that sense. Anything goes, and think about the kind of marching ants, like kind of around divs, and having kind of the little like GIFs and kind of everywhere. I think there's a couple of Simpsons episodes which do it pretty well to show those on. But no, getting back to the point, being able to use like a stable kind of set of technologies, and being able to reuse those and really specialize in them. Where we can, obviously we're being innovative, we're looking at new things, but also one of them is just getting better at the craft of of front end development. And as you get better at it, as you keep on kind of honing your skills, you get quicker, you get faster with this kind of thing. You can kind of see the pitfalls earlier. You can get used to how much you can push the front end stack in certain ways, and I think that will help. So it really brings it back, so we can again do that for clients. Speeding up our development time, reducing costs in that sense, being able to really kind of foolproof things for the future, and make things really robust. Often helps as well, and yeah, just getting those best outcomes, not just for the end user, I suppose, but for the client as well.
Yeah, it's 100% right.
What makes a bad front end, I suppose, I think in from my kind of experience, I think it's like front end tech or any technology. It's a tool, and there are pros and cons to it. There's no silver bullet, and there's no real wrong way of doing something unless you purposely kind of set out to do it in a wrong way. I think where it comes down from is really kind of is this process in a lot of cases. So, where this comes from is just if you're building stuff in isolation, or you're building stuff without thinking about the bigger picture, you can quite quickly get yourself into issues. But yeah, just having that eye on the bigger picture, which is something we push all our developers to do, just allows you to really keep your eye on the ground and kind of really build stuff properly.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to think about what makes a bad front end, because sometimes if you're using software built by, let's say, like a large company that has quite a lot of different services, and because I've just moved to Australia, I've been using quite a lot of different services provided by large companies or organizations. And in a lot of cases, you're on one website, you're on one website for the marketing, then you bounce to another one to log in, then you bounce to another one to do this other thing. And they all kind of look the same, but they're sort of slightly different. And it really disjoints that experience. It's amazing how much those little things can impact and just make you feel a little bit disoriented, or a little bit like you don't quite know what's going on. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes there are a lot of challenges if there are a number of disparate systems and they need to have a cohesive user experience because someone is going through one flow, but it happens to comprise of a lot of different systems. That's a real challenge.
Yeah.
And the number of times that you get redirected off to something and you just watch a spinner for a good sort of 7 or 8 seconds because things are thinking in the background, like that stuff really impacts, I think, on just the way that you associate with the brand.
But it's pretty jarring.
Totally, but this is at no fault of anyone necessarily. I think it's the splintering of just that's the way that you have to build these large systems, I guess. But it's undeniable that does have an impact on the user experience, and I guess this is just sometimes those are the things that have to be weighed up. Like anything, there are trade-offs, and you just have to say what is the trade-off of going this route versus going that route. But the other thing that can sometimes make a bad user experience is actually over-design. It's like so sometimes I look at websites that are winning awards or whatever, and I'm kind of like, yeah, that is cool. That visually looks very cool. But you go to the website and it takes 20 seconds to load, and as you scroll, it gets all janky because it's the resources.
All the things.
Yeah.
So 100%, yeah, and I think there's an element of that, especially probably from an award point of view, of sites that are really kind of flashy in that sense, but if you're on a high-end machine, cool, you got all around to throw at Chrome for it to do the rendering, whereas if you're on mobile or you're on a slightly you're in a rural area with a slightly slower connection, or you run an older device, then yeah, it can be a really janky kind of experience there. So I think there's definitely a side to making sure you're putting again your user first. What's performant, who is your user, where are they going to be, what's their kind of, what tech are they using, and what's their connection going to be like. again, to your point earlier about kind of that process of going through different disparate systems within a similar kind of brand. Again, it's that element of trust. Like, I've definitely been through kind of processes and come away feeling really confident, really good. Cool, I've managed to do the thing I wanted to do. I've been successful. I know it's happening somewhere. I'll wait to hear back from them. And yeah, there's been other times where you kind of come out of it and you're like, but did anything happen there? Am I, should I call them now? Should I follow up with an email? Yeah, I've got no idea what's going on because just the feedback wasn't there, or the experience was just had that little bit of kind of jankiness to it, which doesn't help. So yeah, there are definitely bad front ends in that sense. Thanks, Al. That's been a good chat.
Yeah, thanks, Phil, and thanks everyone for listening. This is Numeral, and we will catch you next time.